Oh man, I don't think I can do the accent. I'm looking at
I was so excited. I was like,
actually,
God.
we'll try it. We'll try it. Okay, so we'll go 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to. I can't do it. I'm gonna make a fucking fool of myself.
That was fucking awesome.
Oh, almost. Okay. Well, hello and welcome to Into You, the podcast where Adam Straughan takes a deep dive into getting to know the best you. My name is not Adam Straughan because today your wonderful host takes the guest seat as you and I dive into the deeper end of him. My name is Zachary Patton-Garcia. Let's get into it. Adam is an actor, podcast host, model, YouTuber, and the most random follow-up here, a train driver based in Tynenware, UK. Is that how you say it?
Got it.
His self-titled YouTube channel delivers reactions, analysis, vlogging, and podcast episodes, and he's got a combined social media following of over 40,000. He hosts and runs the podcasts Last Week On and your current listen, the Into You podcast. Welcome, Adam Straughan, man.
There we go. Honestly, Zach, thank you so much for that intro. That was incredible. You nailed it.
How was that? Did you? How does it feel with your resume being read out to you?
You know, it's so weird because whenever I like look into people and do like, kind of their resumes, you say, like, I always look for like, what is it they're doing right now? And like, what are they really focusing on? And obviously with you, it was like very straightforward. You've got everything going on there. So it's like, just pick these things and I'll introduce them like that. The kind of hot hits, so to speak. And then I remember when I did my episode with Jamie, who's my personal trainer now. And like, even he like straight afterwards was like, whoa, like I didn't realize I've done all of that. And I think sometimes when somebody else reads out, because you're living it, right? And your kind of focus is on what you're doing right now. So when someone kind of makes you step out of that and it's like, you've done all of this, you're kind of like, you know what, you're absolutely right. Like, that is everything I'm doing. And that's crazy. So it kind of blows my mind a little bit, really, when you list it like that.
When it's all listed out, it does kind of add up. Because what's funny about the internet, right, online is you go from thing to thing so fast. Like, there's not really any time to marinate in what you have. Like, at most, you're putting a video out and it's sitting there for how often do you put videos out? A couple times a week, don't you?
A couple of times a week, yeah.
Yeah, so what I do is like once a week, and then I have like that week to kind of like marinate in it. But you're putting it out so often that you're not even. I don't know. Do you know off the top of your head like how many views you have on YouTube totaled? Because you're putting them out so often that number's going up. How often do you keep up with something like that?
I mean, I'd need a double check, to be honest, but I think so. The difference is kind of in your kind of content and mine, Zach. Obviously, you've got a lot of vlog content, but also stuff that you do like Bloody Judy and then like Chaotic, your most recent thing, like they go on for longer, whereas mine tends to be like one song. So it's like, they can be like 10 minutes tops sometimes, 14 minutes here and there. So they kind of allow themselves for more content really as well. Like, because I have a focus on like, say, different artists, there's like a plethora of like everything out there I can choose from. Plus, people send me things like requests and say, you should check out this artist, check out this. So the list just grows and grows. So it's nice. Like sometimes I can have a really good like day of just doing 3 off the bat or 4 off the bat sometimes and just queue them up. And then other times, how busy it can be, you're like, right, I'll get one and then I've got everything else going on. But some of them have done crazy numbers. I think my top one's like 280,000 views, which blows my mind.
Yeah, especially for a reaction video. That's something special there. But like it does move so fast. So do you feel like since you've sort of started your channel that I don't know, how does time feel? Does it feel like it's gone on, it's dragged on a little bit, or does it feel like it's just like going
like that? Like it's weird. So. I mean, the channel started, obviously we'll get into it, but so it was like lockdown 2020. That's when I first started. And like the first lockdown, obviously within the UK. And I remember like I started, so obviously I found your vlogs like during that time. And obviously we had to talk about that in our episode. And I was watching a lot of vlog stuff and a lot of content. And then like reaction videos were just, they were so kind of in and out, you could kind of just watch the video and then, see what they thought about your favorite song. And it started off doing that when I was just kind of like Googling some of my favorite songs and seeing what people thought of them, seeing if like they reacted in the same way that I did to certain points. And if they talked over some of my favorite moments, I was like, oh my God. But yeah, and then I just kind of got a taste for it really. And I was like, you know what? Why don't I just give it a go? Like, why not? Like something to do, because I was in lockdown. I was stood down from work. I wasn't doing anything. So I was like, just give it a go. So I remember I went onto Reddit and I just typed in there, and I literally just typed in thinking of doing a reaction channel. Who do you guys
Oh,
like to see
really?
people react? Yeah, who do you guys like to see people react to? Like honestly, like the comments went nuts. But one name kept coming out all the time, and it was this artist Aurora, this Norwegian
Yeah.
artist. Now, I never heard of her at this point, so I was like, "Who the heck?" So it was genuinely like great to dive into that, and that was the purpose of doing it, really, just to find music from around the world that was
Yeah.
different from like the big popular names all the time. And so anyway, I remember like that first video and like watching, I was like, wow, like this girl's got some skill. And then now, like looking back, that first video, first ever reaction video was to Aurora, the song
Yeah.
Queendom, which is a banger, to now where she's just like, she's got a new album coming out. But because of that, Zach, stuff like I've got people from Norway who like watch my content all the time. Aurora's own mother private
Really?
message private messaged me, and I was like, at first I was like, is this her? And I looked at the profile, I was like, holy shit, that is her. And she was just like, I just want to say a huge thank you for like, supporting my daughter, for saying such kind words, getting her music out there. Honestly, it like means the world. And I was like, what? And like still talk to her now. It's crazy. But yeah, just stuff like I've got a picture hanging up on my wall, which a woman painted from Norway, just to say thank you for checking out
Oh,
her favorite
really?
artist. So
Yeah.
stuff like that, that is bonus. I went into that for selfish reasons, to kind of just discover music and like, just to enjoy like music and different cultures from around the world. And that stuff, when that started happening, that just really kind of opened it all out to me. And I was like, wow, this is actually a thing. Like it's picking up traction. Like, and then I went from like, I think maybe 50 subscribers, like in a
Yeah.
nothing account. And then that number, I think some of my old videos, when I look back and like at the end of them, I'm like, wow, so I've got 1,000 subscribers. I want to say a big thank you to like every, and then like now I'm like
You're
29,500, which is
so close to that 30, man, and it's gonna come in no time. And I'm
no,
looking at your channel right now. I went back to your oldest videos, and yeah, Aurora.
that's her. She's
So
great though. You should check her out.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I've seen quite a few of your Aurora videos.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I do. I love a good thumbnail, and your thumbnails always like land for me. They're always like, yeah, I said, oh, he's feeling that one, so I'm gonna click on this one.
So it's
Um,
funny with the thumbnails. I remember before I started the channel, I like literally looked at like I like Googled like what's the best way to do a reaction channel. And like this guy who did a video and he was all like, oh, it's all about the thumbnail. That's what sells
yeah,
it. So I was like, okay. And it's true. Like that's what you look at. And like if someone's kind of just looks really bored at your favorite song, you're like, well, I got no time for that. But
yeah,
if someone's really vibing off it, you're like, yes, click instantly. And so I remember the guy was like, okay, so at the end of my videos, what I do is I pull like different faces of like how I felt during it. So like my first few videos, like at the end of the videos, if I didn't edit them, it would just be me saying, thanks everyone, see you later.
yeah. No, I feel that. I feel that.
Just pausing it and taking a screen grab,
It's the
But
life of a YouTuber, man. You
yeah,
go to the
yeah,
end of
man.
their recorded content, pre-edited it, and it's always pulling faces.
Yeah, isn't it though? It's just
Yeah.
that's just what you got to do. But it's fun. I actually really enjoy making them. Especially now I've kind of changed it up where I use the background of the music video and I kind of layer me on top. And I noticed since I started doing that, other reaction channels started to, and I'm like,
Oh, did they? Mm. That's
yeah,
also interesting, the sort of competition of it, but I guess we'll kind of get into that. So here's how
yeah, definitely.
we're kind of going to start, right? I've got some questions for you. I didn't send you these ones because I just want your most immediate responses, right? They're not going to be too hard, but
So
we'll
this
see.
feels like, have you ever seen the Vogue videos of like 70 questions with
Oh,
Taylor
we should have
Swift?
done it.
It
73
feels
questions with
exactly like
Adam
this.
Straughan.
Watch out for that video on Vogue.
That's coming. You know what? Whenever I see you, next time I see you, right, we'll walk around your hotel room just and ask you 73 questions. You go from the coffee pot to like the bed to the bathroom.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Question number one. What's your passion?
Ooh, my passion is, you just want one word and we move on?
It didn't have to be
Uh,
one word. It's just what's your response? Yeah.
Performance.
Okay. Performance. Good. What drives you?
Ooh, to always learn and develop.
Hmm. What's most important to you?
Ooh, making sure that I always become a better version of myself and
Hmm.
not going backwards.
That's a good one. It's a good one. What matters the least?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Because you kind of think like, what do I not think about?
Hmm.
Um, Negativity in terms of trying to pull me down. That
Okay.
stuff I let go of my head.
Okay. What scares you?
failure, I guess. Kind of not moving forward in any way, staying stuck.
Okay. What's your biggest insecurity?
Ooh. Which one of 20,000? No, I think for a long time it was letting people in.
Okay. I get that.
Yeah.
I get
And we'll
that.
talk about that. We'll probably go into reasons why as we talk
Yeah.
on. But yeah,
Yeah,
letting people in
absolutely.
all the way in. Yeah.
And then the last one, where do you thrive?
So this is kind of a two-part answer. So I'm a bit of a person where I can be the life of a party, or I can be cuddled up on a couch with a drink and just watching a good film by myself.
Mm,
And I think I thrive in two different ways in those aspects. So I think when I'm with the life of the party, it's with my nearest and dearest, my best mates, like that's where I'm thriving. But if I'm like sitting down, just watching something that I really love and I just, I'm like really fangirling about it, then I kind of thrive there as well. It's like we love our media, right?
mhm.
And I just thrive when I'm watching something that really hits me and I just love it. So yeah, probably there as well.
Perfect. Yeah, those are the end of those questions, but I just kind of wanted to get a sense of like, because there's different ways you could go with these, right?
Mm,
We could get the answers that kind of put you more in line with, say, a question that's what's most important to you, and you say family or something like that. Well, then that kind of gives us an idea of where your headspace is at in terms of like it's more centered around personal relationships and family, but you gave us answers that go along with your passions and with your sort of interests, and you talk about media, and that's perfect because that's something that you and I actually bonded over, right? Is like that's
yeah.
what we kind of became friends over. Is I'm pretty sure we talked about Buffy more than anything when we actually started talking, as well as Ian Carlos
Yeah.
Crawford. But yeah, no, it's good to see where your kind of head is at in terms of, is it with relationships? Where are you putting most value? Is it in performing? Is it I don't
Yeah.
know. Where would you say you put more of your eggs, do you think, in your own sort of growth creatively, or in relationships, or like an equal balance of both?
I think so. I mean, they're interesting questions because they're quick fire. So you come up with like the answer, and there's obviously like other kind of things as well you could add to each answer. Like, of course, family is important to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, of course, those relationships are. But I think in terms of putting like my energy into things, it's creativity. Like I think. I mean, you're a creative, Zach. Like I
Yeah.
am as well. So you probably get this. Like, I've got friends who are probably they say they're not creative, but they're probably creative just in different ways, right? So like academia, which we'll go into, like comes into my background, but I always thrived when I was like getting the chance to be creative. I always kind of thought when I was younger I was going to be an artist in some way. And I don't necessarily
Mm-hmm.
mean like, the next Britney Spears or anything like that. I just literally meant actual art
Mm-hmm.
because I just loved it. And that's something which kind of dropped off. But I used to love that shit back in the day of like just sitting
Yeah.
down in art class and creating stuff like with clay or like drawing things, painting things, and just like I guess it's expression is what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like how you can express yourself in different ways. And then yeah, I think the moment I stepped on stage for the first time and performed, that for me really kind of opened my eyes. I was like, right, this is the energy that I really love. Like I
Mm-hmm.
love being on stage and I love getting that, that kind of loop that you get the audience kind of applause and shit like that. And just
Yeah.
it's just I guess in a way, as cliche as what it sounds, but you kind of explore yourself, and you kind of find your own boundaries and you find, you know, what you love and what it is you like to do, what you gravitate towards, and what you really want to create more of. So, yeah, I guess really in the performance scheme, just being a creative, that's one
Yeah.
thing that I don't think I could ever suppress. That's always just a core part of who I am.
I love that. Love that. So let's kind of, you spoke a little bit about your younger years, but let's kind of rewind back to that, Rob. I did send you this one, and I hope you thought about it, because I want you to take us into a moment of your childhood, right? I want
Mm,
you to paint us a picture. I want
okay.
to see where you are, like hear what sounds are around, what's it smell
Yeah.
like, just like pick a moment and transport us back with you.
All right. All right. All right. Let's go. My goodness. Sound like you there, Zach. But all right. So let's go like right back. So
Mm,
obviously, I'm a little bit older than you, Zach. But so in the 90s, I'm originally from obviously the northeast of England. So I'm from a little town called Hettonley Hall. So it's an ex-mining village. So obviously, 80s kind of, big mining boom. And yeah, I live between Durham and Sunderland. So like those are two main cities in the northeast of England. Durham's probably more famous. That's where Harry Potter was filmed. Hogwarts was
is it?
filmed there.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, Hettonley Hall sits in the middle. So anyway, And like this was the age, like younger. That's like I spent 16 years of my life like in this house, and it was in Victoria Street in like this little kind of village of Henley Hall. We were working class and we were in a terraced house, and that comes with great things that we miss out on now, right? So
Yeah.
like your neighbors became your best friends, and especially
Mm.
if they were your same age. Like we kind of lost a lot of that now, where like when you were younger, you'd go back out in the back street and you'd like hang with your mate, and you just sit there for hours, and sometimes you just talk, or like you would kick a ball around, you'd like whack a ball against the wall or something. And this was before mobile phones. This was before like proper modern day technology. So
Yeah.
you were kind of just those were the golden times when you really got to know people, and you were just there for each other, just chatting to each other, just like shooting the shit. And I remember, so when I was younger, obviously I lived in this house on Victoria Street. And for me, whenever I think of that house, I always think of the Christmases that we had there. Like Christmas still today, when I think of Christmas, I think of Victoria Street.
Mm.
And I think the reason why is, so in my family, I've got my mom, my dad, and I've got two brothers. So I've got an older brother and I've got a younger brother. And we're 2 years apart. So like the Christmases there were just magic between us. And like my older brother Gavin, he had like his own bedroom. My younger brother Andrew, like we shared a room together on bunk beds. I was always top bunk because let's be real. Yeah, like I just remember like Christmases there where like it'll be Christmas Eve and like we'll be all wrapped up and like Andrew would be like, oh my God, what do you think's going to happen? And I was like, oh my God, I know. And like, we'll just be chatting, but like, we'll chat for hours. And like, just
Yeah.
me and my brother, like, because, again, this was before the days of like, just getting in, like texting your mates or like FaceTiming or like Snapchat, Instagram, all of that. Like, you just like lie there and just chat for hours and just like express your own thoughts and how you think about things and really get to know somebody like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like Christmas days in Victoria Street were just the best, man. Just the best. I remember like coming downstairs. So like it was an older house and like every stair had a creak, but you could always tell when you were walking downstairs whether somebody was walking downstairs or upstairs based on like the random ways that the creak would be heard. And it was just stuff like that. It had character, right? And like
Yeah.
the cupboard under the stairs, like where we used to hang our coats, like that had a really musty smell. And any time I ever get a whiff of that anywhere, I'm just like, it's the cupboard under the stairs. Like, I could be in a library and I just get, I mean, I don't spend a lot of time in the library, but if I was and I got that smell, I'd be like, that takes me back to Victoria Street. But I remember like my mum and dad were always really Christmassy people as well. So my mum like used to go all out. So like on the house and have it really Christmassy and just, yeah, coming down, man. And then just like, unwrapping presents and like talking to like, my brothers, what do you get? What do you get? And all this. And it was just magic. And we had like a little sausage dog, a little dachshund at the time called Pepper, and like she would just get lost in like all the wrapping, like where she like just it would be like moving because she'd be running around. And yeah, I loved those times. And like it's nostalgia galore, right?
Yeah, it is. And you don't do a whole lot to help your sort of English Christmas fantasy stereotype. You're talking about perfect English Christmas and the creaky stairs and
Literally, yeah, like honestly.
so
Yeah.
situate yourself in some of those memories. What are you like? How do you sort of react? What gets you excited? What has you
Mm,
running down the stairs? What are you hoping to open the
mm.
most when you're opening things?
Oh man, yeah, I went through a phase, and this probably leans into Buffy a little bit, but I remember like I was a little bit obsessed with like anything. I got a magic set one year for Christmas, and I loved it. It came with a top hat, came
Yeah.
with a wand, and I was like, I felt like the coolest fucking kid ever in England that morning. But I loved shit like that. But yeah, even going right back, like this was the days of like 90s TV, right? So we were opening stuff like Ghostbusters, like or like Thundercats, like really kind of like of the time, like 90s
Yeah.
shows, and like having like little action figures and stuff like that. And I remember just loving that shit. And like, the magic set obviously that I got was just it, like decks of cards and like tricks and everything like that. I just loved that stuff so much. Again, that's probably leaning into the performance side of it, right?
Yeah.
Like doing different like, tricks and that. And I loved that shit and I ate it up. But yeah, like, and then as time went on, like obviously when stuff used to come out, three brothers, we obviously had consoles, gaming consoles. So I remember when the first PlayStation came out, and we came downstairs and it was set up. And like literally there was like an argument, like I'm going on first, no, I'm going on first. And like literally it was like that for an hour on Christmas morning. And it was like the first Resident Evil game. And yeah, I remember like just playing that for the first time and being like, oh my God, like this is incredible. This changes everything. But like, yeah, before that, I guess it was like action figures, board games. But yeah, I remember getting like Mousetrap for the first time and it being like mind blowing, like just setting that up on Christmas Day and being like, oh my God. But yeah, but you know what? There's a sense of that where like me, like Gavin and Andrew, so like my brothers, we would like sit together and just play that for like hours on Christmas morning. That doesn't really happen now.
It
Like, I
does
feel
not.
like not really for us, no. And I mean, I don't know if like if a lot of households have stepped away from that because you know like kids will get like iPads or get new phones and then they're kind of like you know like sitting like by themselves and just be on that and it'll be silent. Whereas I think back to those times and again kind of what I was leaning towards was like when you had your mates and you didn't really have any other technology and it was just that quality time together. It was the best.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And you talk about that magic set, and that kind of, I guess, leads us into performing, right? Because we got to get into
Mm,
your sort of love for performance. And you told me
yeah,
that you began acting, right? That was the very first sort of performing that you were doing, and that was 9 years old, right?
yeah,
It's
that's
like,
right.
how do you fall into that? How do you discover that that is the thing that's like, wow, what a moment. I liked the reaction I just got, and I kind of want to keep doing that. And what does that mean? Like, what is acting to a 9 year old? You know?
It's crazy, right? So I remember what it was. Okay, so it was a school play that I was in, and that was the first taste I ever had of it. So it was like we were in the assembly hall, and we were just doing like a little performance. It was all about bullying,
Yeah.
but I got to play the bully. So I was playing the baddie, and I loved it. So like, and I ever since that point, I don't know what it is, and I kind of mentioned this in my last podcast episode, but whenever I get to play a bad guy, love it. So yeah, and I remember there was me and my friend at the time, Rachel, who was like my acting buddy. Like we were always placed and acted together right through school, but we were played the bullies. And there was just this one little scene on stage when we were like bullying this other person, and the other person's like older sister came out and like told us off, and we had to run off stage, like just run away because we were
Yeah.
scared. And but that reaction got like such a laugh. And I remember like even the teacher saying to me, like, wow, Adam, like, you know, you really like got into that and you know, you look like you really enjoyed it. And I was like, you know what? You're right. I kind of did. Like, I
Yeah.
enjoyed just doing that. And I guess it wasn't just about like people just like applauding and just being like, oh my God, yes. It was just, I enjoyed kind of getting into that role. I mean, I know we're talking 9 years old. I was just playing a bully, you know, like, there's
It's
no,
still
but
impactful at 9 years old, though. You know?
massively. Yeah. And it was just, I think it was just a different way of expressing yourself that I hadn't done until that point.
Mm.
And it's just, I always think back, that was the moment when I kind of thought, maybe I'm going to enjoy this a bit more. And then I kind of just pursued it like from school and just always went for the lead roles and used to normally get them to be fair because not a lot of the
Yeah.
people
There you go. There you go.
not a lot of but like other people were bothered but I used to like make it like literally like right I've got this monologue I am doing this
Yeah.
and I remember getting to secondary school so this was kind of like from ages like 12 to 15, 16. So I don't know what the equivalent is for you guys in the US, but we have like primary school when we're younger, then secondary school, and then we go on to like college, then university. But I remember in secondary school, Miss Miller, my drama teacher, who was beautiful, by the way, like all the like guys just fancied her, and she's beautiful, still is today. I saw her like a couple of months ago. She's amazing. She just really kind of took to me because she could tell I loved it. Like I just loved it. So when we started learning things like Shakespeare and everything, a lot of people were like, "Oh my God!" But I just ate it up because that like it was my language. It felt like it was speaking to me. You know, I just
Yeah.
like it was just performance. So like whenever we'd get up and just do little scenes from like Macbeth or anything, which to be fair, I always wanted to play a witch, but that never happened. But just like getting into that and just getting to perform and like even when we used to do productions of like stuff like Grease and everything like that, I was just well into it just because I really loved it and I was really
Yeah.
passionate for it, and she could tell that. Yeah, she just I think teachers can take to kids like that when they're really kind of into the lesson that they teach.
Hmm.
And yeah, like at the end, I remember like when I was leaving, she got really emotional. She gave me like a big hug when I was like leaving school. And she was just like, "Oh my God, Adam." And then when I went back to the school, like literally this was only a few months ago, and she's still there teaching. Like and I was kind of like, will she recognize me? And then as soon as I walked in, she just turned and went, Adam, and
Oh,
ran on, give me a huge hug. And I was like, oh my God. And then she's like, oh my God, tell me everything what you've been doing. So I was telling her about all the acting stuff I've done. And she was just like, it was just great. You know, it was just great. And it was nice that we had that bond, obviously, like teacher student bond of where, like, you know, I think she just understood I loved it, and she wanted to feed that passion, right? Because she knew that was helping me to develop as, like, you know, an adolescent as well, really. So it was nice. And it kind of started from when I was 9 years old. And obviously it kind of just carried me through. So obviously I did it in secondary school. When I went to college, I did drama there, which is an interesting part of my life, which we'll come to at some point. And then after college, I went to uni. I studied it there. And then I went and did a master's degree in it, in theatre and performance at Manchester. And then, yeah, from there, kind of like that's where it plateaued a little bit until I then kind of joined an agency and started doing some acting work then.
you'll have to have that drama teacher on your podcast here. You'll
I
have
would
to bring
love
her
to.
on here. That'd
I'd
be a good
love
one.
to. That would be really good. Yeah, I'll ask her actually. That's a really good idea.
That became your sort of like biggest passion, is what I'm taking from all of this, right?
Mm.
Did you ever feel like sort of held back by any other? I mean, I guess sort of at those first seven questions, you kind of said what matters the least is, other people's sort of perceptions and stuff like that.
Mm.
Did you ever get bullied or anything for
Oh,
your love
massively,
of
Zach.
performing? Did it ever really affect you, because you did keep it going, you carried it
Mm.
through,
Yeah.
so it didn't ever really hold you back? But I don't know, did it?
Yeah, massively. When I was younger, like I was like the only kind of male kind of kid in my year who used to love performance,
Mm,
literally. Like others, whether like other people kind of just didn't because they were too afraid or whatever, like that, that's their deal. But yeah, really badly sometimes.
yeah.
It got physical
Did it
sometimes,
really?
and
Mm,
yeah, yeah, and with that comes all the slurs. All the slurs that we as gay people get all the time.
yeah.
And that comes with it. And for a long time, I didn't have the most support for my sexuality when I was younger,
Yeah.
and I was aware of that. And I think with performance came a lot of the ability to play someone else for a long time.
Mm,
And when you get told for so long that the person that you are is wrong or isn't right, it's hard not to believe that sometimes. So
yeah.
when you can perform as somebody else, you almost like self escape. And it's not great. It doesn't do much for your mental health, and it can start to break you down. And there was times when I really kind of questioned, do I want to do this? Because although it's a passion and I enjoy it, but it does feel like it's kind of breaking me down a little bit.
Yeah.
And especially in college, I think I had an amazing drama teacher in college, Mr. Kelly, who was like phenomenal. And like he again, I think he saw like that fire in me, that passion in me. So he was always like, right. And like whenever he wanted like anything like demonstrating, he was like, Adam, can you just get up and do this? And I was like, yeah, like straight on there doing it. I feel like I was like an annoying drama kid, but I swear I wasn't. So at that age, I was like, like 15, 16. And obviously, like that age in your life, you really start to question sexuality, who you are. You started to develop properly your identity, right? And I remember like at Durham sixth form is where I went. And there was these goth kids like right at the back of the refectory, which was like, basically where everyone had their break. And I used to think they were the coolest spoken people.
Yeah.
And they were, because it was like, they were like anti-establishment type thing. They were like, we're just doing our thing. And there was three gay people part of that group. And this was the first time like I was ever kind of being friends with gay people. And I was like, wow, like I feel like I can talk to these people and be my authentic self without having to feel like I'm having to play somebody for so long, right? And like I remember just like confiding in those people and being like, I feel like I'm battling something here where I love performing, I love doing this, but when I come out of performance, when I step off that stage, I go back to being Adam, and that's the person who I feel like I'm told not to be by people.
Yeah.
And then there was a lot of kind of like huge conversations, a lot of development with those people, and I still love those people today. And I remember like the first time I really fell hard for a guy was in college actually. And that was unbelievable. I think that was the first time I kind of convinced myself, you are gay. Like
Yeah.
you love this guy. And yeah, a lot of missed opportunities with him. But again, there was always that thing at the back of my head because that support wasn't there. And verbally was told many times that you can't be this way because it's not right. And that's a narrative for gay people. It's a narrative for a lot of gay people.
Mm.
And I guess when I was younger, it did almost push me in. Like what we're doing right now, Zach, although like I was into performing and doing everything like that, I could step away from it, and I was really introverted. So like talking to Adam was like talking to an introverted person who kind of went very into themselves, didn't really have much confidence at all. So like the idea of doing this would have killed me. Like I just wouldn't have done it. No way, no way. And it got to a point when I really came out and I had a conversation with a friend, and like he kind of said two things to me. And one of them was, what's more important, Adam, your happiness or somebody else's happiness? And that really stuck with me for a long time and still does to this day. And again, he said, you're only in your teens once. You're only in your 20s once. Like, don't let that time go and don't look back and regret. And I was like, shit, you're absolutely right. Once I kind of that clicked in my mind and I kind of thought, you know what? It's more about my happiness. And it's about like, why do I like performing? I like performing because I like to do this, but I like the feeling of coming back and being Adam again, right? So I kind of just developed a shell. And that stuff, I was like, that stuff doesn't matter because that stuff brings me down. Why do I want to spend time in that? Why do I want to worry about that when reality is it's not doing any good for me? It's negative energy. And why do I need that in my life? And so, yeah, for a long time, like it took a while. Don't get us wrong, because, you know, like bullying and everything like that can just sting, right? And it stays with you for years. But once I'd kind of that clicked in my mind and I realized I did have supportive friends around me, like those people at college, you know, and like other friends that I went on to meet, it really built me back up. And I always say like a big part of my life was what my friends helped me to develop, you know, to get to know Adam, because I could be Adam around them and not just feel like I had to perform this role that people would accept. And then, yeah, being the person who performs does come with bullying, especially at a younger age. But I think having the friends around me to support me through that, and it really just helped me build up and just got me through it. And then, yeah, even now, I just think, I just remind myself not to dwell in that space because I know how it feels. You know, I've come through that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. There's that a lot of queer people do find themselves in some sort of performance aspect, right? Because it does allow us to kind of go outside of ourselves and do so and be something else for a little bit,
Yeah.
just for a little bit of time. But the most surprising part of that is that your lack of self confidence. Because I like talk to you and the Adam that I know, you're like so
Yeah.
confident all the time, man. Like that's
Yeah, yeah,
crazy.
man. It is crazy, man. Crazy.
Yeah, going into I do want to kind of go into your coming out, and so
Yeah.
when do you where and when did you like really get a sense that you were into boys, and then when did you put a label to that? When were you able to put a label to that?
Okay. So it's going to sound hilarious, but I remember when I was younger, so like maybe like, I don't know, 11, 12,
Yeah.
probably age really. I remember like, do you remember those? I don't know if you had this in America, but like, so obviously we had stuff like the Daily Star and like different papers like that. And you always had a page 3 girl, which was like a topless girl. And I remember like just looking at that and just being like, all right, okay. Like, it just did nothing for me.
You're not putting it
Just
on
like,
the back of your door or
yeah,
nothing. Okay, well,
absolutely not. I was like, oh yeah, like her hair looks really nice there. And just flicking through the paper,
you
just
just put
not
the
bothered.
paper down, and your dad's looking at you, and he's like,
And like, I wonder where she is now. I wonder what
yeah,
she's doing. But like, whereas I'd noticed like, you know, friends, like male friends at like school and everything like that would be talking about women that they really liked.
yeah,
And I was always like, that's interesting because I don't feel that way. And I never understood why for so long. And I remember my best friend, who's still my best friend today, he was obsessed with Britney Spears, like posters of her on the bedroom wall, like on his bedroom wall and everything. And it's funny, like if this was a film, you would like cut to like him in his bedroom, like probably like, you know, loving Britney Spears in that way. And then you would cut to me and it would be like me like trying to stand on top of a chair and spin it and recreate the moment from the Stronger music video. You know,
yeah.
just polar opposites of what
Oh
we got
my
out of those
gosh.
situations, right?
I was
Can you imagine?
absolutely both of them. That was me right in the middle. I was-
But yeah, so I remember like that young age, and then I knew through school, you know what I mean? I knew for a long time, but I just didn't want to accept it. And I
yeah,
didn't want to explore it because, again, I did have a youth, and I remember very specific moments of when it was highlighted to me that my parents wouldn't support it.
hmm
And I remember those moments very, very vividly. And those are the moments where I kind of thought, wow, okay, well, that's been said. Their opinions have been made very clear. So
yeah.
this is something I'm going to have to keep to myself.
Do you think
And
they
I think
made opinions sort of known because they knew about you, or do you think they were just doing it offhanded? You just happened to hear stuff like that.
I don't think it was necessarily directed at me. I don't think they were being malicious in that way.
hmm
But I think it was more kind of like situational. So
Okay.
like there was a time when, do you know like Alan Carr, the
Yeah.
UK TV host? Yeah. So I mean, hilarious, right? So he had his own show, Chatty Man, and like it was me, my dad, and my mum. and we were sitting watching Chatty Man. I mean, it's hilarious, right?
It
It's a
is so
great
funny.
show.
He's
So
he's hilarious. Yeah,
amazing, right? He's so good.
but also
And then
very
like,
camp and very queer, right? So I can
but
imagine.
yeah, yeah, exactly, right. So we're sitting there and like I'm laughing, like my mom's laughing, my dad's laughing along and everything like that. And then after the show ended, my dad stood up and he just went, "Yeah, that was pretty funny, but if it was up to me, he'd still be shot dead."
Mm.
And I remember just that hit me. Like I was practically shot in that moment. And I just remember thinking, wow. And I kind of looked over at my mom to see her reaction, and she was just really passive.
Yeah,
And I remember just being like, wow, well, that's been made very clear that this kind of side of me is something I have to keep to myself for a long time. And then again, it started to really eat me up. There's a really interesting tweet, and I'm going to paraphrase it somewhere, but somebody tweeted something along the lines of, again, I'm paraphrasing, but when they said, a narrative of gay people's lives is creating a personality in which people accept. And then
yeah,
when they accept themselves, trying to pull out the pieces of what's real and what's not. And I think that's really, really apt for my situation where, as I was saying to you earlier, like I was really introverted, no confidence. I used to kind of more push people away than welcome people. And it was really weird because I used to think if my own parents won't accept me, then other people won't. So I used to keep people at arm's distance
yeah,
massively. So like people would try and talk to me and like I wouldn't ever say I was rude, but I was just made it very clear that I was very introverted and didn't want to like give anything away. And like when I was kind of saying to you before, like letting people in, I never used to do it because I never used to think like I would be accepted. And I used to think, if they got to know the real me, they would hate me because I
yeah,
was getting that from the people that I loved the most in my life, right? I came out at the age of 26, which reality isn't really that long ago. But it was meeting a guy, and again, like he obviously told his brother was gay. He was so confident, like he was so fucking confident. And yeah, I was having a conversation with him and just chatting to him about stuff. And he was like, he really kind of helped me just to find that strength to do it. And I remember doing it, and it obviously went horrendously. But I knew it was going to happen like that. I knew it. But at this point, I kind of thought, I had that fire in me now, Zach, where
yeah,
I was tired. I'd had enough. And I felt like I was beyond this now. Like I was really starting to get to know who Adam was. And I liked that. And I was tired of feeling like I had to like apologize or say sorry for that or try and change who I was because of that.
yeah. And
And
that's
so,
really good because I'm sure you get this question a lot also from just younger queer kids. It's like advice on how to come out and when to come out. But there really is no answer to something like that. It's really when you feel that sort of moment, when you get to that sort of point where you're
yeah.
tired of either putting on a mask or like hiding a part of yourself.
Yeah.
You said it went horrendously. I want to know a little bit more about that.
So I remember I came downstairs. So the way I did it is I remember sitting in my bedroom and I was psyching myself up. I was like, you're gonna
Yeah,
do it, you're gonna do it. You're gonna go downstairs and you're just gonna say it. And I just couldn't. So
yeah,
I typed it out first and I emailed it to my mom.
mm,
That's how I did it. And I remember I was sitting there like looking at the inbox and I was like, is she gonna reply? Is she gonna reply? And so I was like, she hasn't said anything. She probably hasn't even looked at her emails. So I texted her and I was like, have you looked at your emails? And she replied saying, no, why? And I was like, can you just do it, please? So I was sitting upstairs and then I was like, and then everything went quiet downstairs. And I was like sitting in my room and I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is it. This is it. And I heard somebody coming upstairs and I thought, oh my God,
oh
here we
no,
go. Yeah. And then I heard the doorknob go and like I instantly like just died inside. And my mom walked in. And the really interesting response was that she wasn't really like, I guess, accepting and like kind of, oh, Adam, we still love you. It's, amazing. Like, it was more kind of case of just acknowledging what had happened. So she was kind of more like, oh, well, you've told us how you feel. This is how you feel. So, you've told us now and you've been honest with us. And I was like,
yeah.
right, but that's not what I'm looking for. And then she kind of took my hand and she was like, come on downstairs. We'll have a chat with your dad. And I remember thinking, what? And she pretty much like pulled me downstairs. So I thought, oh my God. So we went
I'm
downstairs.
cringing right now. I just
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It gets worse. So we
oh
went
my
downstairs
gosh.
and my dad was in the kitchen and he had his back to me the whole time. And he was standing at the kitchen. He was like washing dishes. And the whole time he spoke to me, he never turned around once.
Hmm.
And I remember I walked in the kitchen and all he said was, son, this is a decision that you've made.
Yeah.
I don't accept it. I don't agree with it, but that's a decision you've made. If you want to live your life like that, that's your decision, but I don't accept it and I don't want anything to do with it. And then there was a pause for a long time. And then this was the kicker. Was that he said to me, you know what, Adam, I think you're being really selfish telling us this.
Ooh. Ooh.
Because, yeah, he said, because you knew how we'd react. And I was like inside, I was literally hulking out. Like inside, I was like, what? Inside, I was like screaming. Like inside, I was like, selfish, fucking selfish. I've kept this to myself for years because I knew how you'd react because I've suppressed this for years. And you're calling me selfish for doing that. I was irate, but I knew like at that point, it wasn't the time to like explode because hell would have broke out. And so he walked out the room. And then my mom kind of gave me these instructions, which was don't be in the same room as your dad. Don't try and hug him. Try to just avoid him. Give him space, Adam, and give him time. And I kind of remember thinking, why the hell should I?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. So we had this weird time for like months where we wouldn't be in the same room together. He wouldn't speak to me. We'd arrange where if he was in the house at certain times, I wouldn't be in, and vice versa. And it was weird. But then, like after a few months, things kind of got back to a weird state of normality where he would be in the same room as me again. He would talk to me, but like it was the elephant in the room, right? Like he knew, but we didn't talk about it, so it was weird. And then when I got myself into my first relationship with a guy, that's when it all kind of came out again. Like obviously, I was spending more time out of the house, right? So I was spending time at his. And obviously they knew that, I wasn't spending time with friends. Like, I was obviously spending time, I was being with somebody.
Yeah.
And then I kind of thought like, so he was kind of like my secret relationship for a while. And which I kind of enjoyed, to be fair. And then, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to say something to him because why should I do this? Why should I have to dance around this? Like I've already told them they know this. So it's not like I'm telling them something they don't already know. So we had like a family christening coming up. And I remember saying like, oh, like, I've been seeing someone for a few months, obviously, but I'd like to bring them along just to introduce them to the family and like introduce them to you guys and everything like that. And then my dad turned around to me and said, oh, you just want to make this family christening your coming out party, Adam, and that's not fair. And I just went, okay. So I went upstairs and I packed a bag and I left.
We had the coming out party in the kitchen, We
did.
This
is
not
a
a
fucking
coming out
blast.
party. Yeah.
There was balloons, there was cake, but
that's crazy. How have they kind of come around at this point, or
Zach? I have to stress this that they are amazing now. Amazing. Mm-hmm. And I think the whole thing, the way kind of, there is a link to another podcast which I'll give where you can listen to me tell the whole story. It's like a 40-minute long episode, but it really dives into all the depth of that. But the real kind of moment of when they turned around was I think my dad and mum realized what they stood to lose.
Yeah.
So like I remember my mum's birthday was coming up at one point and I was like, I am not going, no interest. And my mum rang me and she was really upset on the phone. And I just said to her on the phone, I said, look, if you're going to keep pushing me away, I'm going to walk away. And that's what's happening. That is what is happening. And this isn't something that I'm doing. This is what you have decided. And I remember her being really upset. And she said to me, look, Adam, please come. We've got to talk to you. Like things are different. And I was like, okay. So anyway, so I went. And I remember my mom pulled me to one side. So like the rest of the family were in like the restaurant. And my mom pulled me to one side and she was like, every night since you've left, your dad's been walking past your bedroom and saying, God, like, what have we done? Like, I miss our Adam. Like, I really miss our Adam. Like, what on earth have we done? He was like amazing to me in the restaurant. And he actually said to me, he was like, I want to meet your partner. Let's set a date in the diary. Let's do it. And I was like, yeah, okay, let's do it. And we went for a meal together, the four of us. So me, my ex-partner, my mum and my dad. I think the big moment for me was like my dad, like when he first met him, give him the handshake, like it's very formal. But then after the meal, like they were sitting opposite each other. So my ex-partner, my dad, me and my mom, and like they were like really cracking on and like talking and getting on really well. And I was like, wow, like that's really good to see. But when we were walking away at the end and like I gave my mom a hug and like my mom hugged my ex-partner, but then my dad pulled in my ex for a hug. Mm-hmm. And that for me was instrumental. Yeah. Like, because like 6 months ago, that wouldn't have happened. Like a year ago, that wouldn't have happened. And that was like a huge moment where that for me, he wasn't hugging me, but he was showing the acceptance of me in that moment. And then since that moment, which was like, years ago now, it's been incredible. Like they're amazing. It's not even a thing, right? It's not even a thing. But I think because my dad was such a traditionalist in many ways, it just was something that didn't register with him. But, once he figured out what he stood to lose, they nearly lost their middle son. Like I nearly walked away. And I think once they realized that and realized that, they could be happy for their son in ways that they didn't even realize. And once that hit, that's when they were like, yeah. And then it never became a thing again. And they're amazing now. Like I have an amazing relationship with my parents now.
Yeah, I mean, and it is really hard because whether you love your family or not, like a lot of times family is something you can't really break away from, right? Like,
Yeah.
especially for a lot of kids who, aren't of age. In America, that would be 18. How old is that there?
Oh,
Like
it's what, sorry?
adult, like an adult age. What is adult
Like,
age?
yeah,
Is
18,
that
yeah.
18? Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, and a lot of people like rely on support from their parents and their family. Like they can't really be on their own, so they kind of
Yeah.
have to put up with stuff like that. But really, you gotta like you stay strong, right? You stay strong. You try as hard as you can not to compromise that sense of like understanding about yourself, uh,
And you're right in what
because
you said as well, like it's about finding that moment. Like,
yeah,
so when I've had like, younger gay people ask me, like, how did you come out and like how did you find the strength to do it? And there's still every circumstance is different, right? Every
mhm,
circumstance is individual. So, I can only ever tell you what I did, but that's not me
exactly.
telling you what to do because your circumstance is totally different to mine. But
Yeah.
it's right, it's what you said, Zach. It's when you find that fire and that moment, that gumption when you just got it,
Well, I didn't
ride on
say it. I
that.
didn't say that. You said that. That's you. That's all you, man. No, but like the people in your life, the people who are supposed to love you, if they do really love you, they will eventually come around. They
Right
they they
on.
have to. They will eventually accept you. Whatever they may not like it, but they will learn to keep it to themselves. They will learn to love you regardless. And if they don't, then those people ain't worth a damn. They're
Exactly.
not worth it. And okay, so let's kind of like fast forward a little bit.
Yeah.
Going into so we've got two different sort of branches here. We've got your performing and your sexuality. I kind of want to go off your sexuality. I'm
Yeah.
feeling
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So experimenting with guys, like the first time you start talking to guys, going on dates, like how that's a whole new like open world for me. That was in college, and I first like got I was like getting on Grinder and like going
Yeah.
out and meeting guys and stuff like that. Like, what was that
Yeah.
new open world like for you?
Oh
Um,
my God. So at first a little scary.
of course, of course,
Yeah, because it's brand new, right? And you
yeah,
don't know. And again, it's a part of that where you've been told for so long that is wrong. So the thought of you kind of doing it anyway, it's a little bit exciting, but also
mhm.
scary at the same time.
Were you
And
still under like your parents' roof, or were you out on your own by this point?
initially, yeah.
Yeah,
So I remember, so the guy at college, he was like the first person ever that I kind of like cemented, like, okay, I am gay. And I fell hard for this guy. I'm trying to like dance around his name. He probably doesn't listen to this podcast, but
yeah,
so if I accidentally say his name, whoops. But anyway, we were in the same drama class together. And I remember I found him so fucking annoying to start with, just because he was like so confident, like
yeah.
so sure of himself. And like not in a, like an arrogant way or anything like that, but just in a like confidence is attractive, right? So like I saw that and like at first I was a bit like, God, will you just shut up? But then but then by the end, like, and I think because he was really good at performance, and obviously, like I'd like to say that I was like really good and really passionate about it as well. So we kind of started to act alongside each other together. And I remember I remember this moment that gave us the shocks, which was when we had to do this weird exercise where we had to stand in a line facing each other. So it was a mixture like guys and girls. So although there
Yeah.
wasn't very many guys, let's be real. And you had to go along and like you had to in the most serious way possible. You had to like hold the person's face and say the words, I love you, but you're the only one who cares. But you had to like sell it. And I remember when he did it to me, and I was like,
Oh.
say it again. And but I literally, I was just like, oh. And we became really good friends. And I remember that was the first time like I ever did anything with a guy.
Yeah.
And I remember going to his, and like we were younger, so this was like what, like 16, 17. And I remember going over to his house, and yeah, like he had like one of them attic bedrooms, so it was like a huge bedroom. And to be fair, we used to hang out in there. We used to get high. We used to
Yeah.
drink. But then I remember very specifically one night. So he gave me his bed, and he was like, you can have the bed, Adam. I'll just have this air bed like down here. And I remember like inside just being like, just jump in with us. I'm not bothered. But yeah, so he slept on this air bed down for a bit, and we were just chatting through the night and everything. And then at one point, literally mid-sentence, he just got up so casually, just slipped in the bed next to me and just like covers over him and just lay down. So we're just chatting like literally in bed, like actual pillow talk.
Yeah.
And then that, I just remember like, oh God, I was like, my heart was racing. And then, yeah, like that was the first time anything happened with a guy. And even just then, it wasn't like, anything crazy. It wasn't like X-rated, but just like, remember the first time, that was the first time I kissed another guy.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, whoa, like this feels so like, I don't know how it feels, but I love it. And like, I'm not bothered if this is wrong or like if someone tells me this is wrong or whatever. I loved it.
Was that your first kiss with a guy or first kiss period?
First kiss with a guy.
Okay.
First kiss with a girl was hilarious. But, but yeah, first kiss with a guy. Yeah. And yeah, obviously, we fooled around. And then, yeah, I just remember being like, yeah, this is what I like. And I guess this was like that was organic, right? Like that was in person. I met him at college. And like we kind of we were discovering ourselves together, right? We were like discovering our sexuality and what it meant to like be with like a guy together. Because I remember him telling me at the time that he'd only done something with another guy as part of a three-way, which I found hilarious. He was obviously a lot more sexually experimental than what I was at that time. And then obviously I was the first time, like, just guy on guy type thing. And yeah, I just loved it. And then like it started to become a regular thing where like it was so like secretive and quite sexy where like nobody else in the class knew. So like, and like we would like deliberately like not work together and stuff like that. And then like secretly like text each other and be like, so you coming over night? Yeah, I'll see you. And just like, and like he would like walk ahead and like get to the bus earlier than me. And then like I'd get, I'd be like, oh, you're getting this bus as well. And then just get on, like end up going back, to his, and just, it was like a fun time. And like, I don't know where he is in the world now. Like we don't speak, but I'll always just remember he was the first person that ever like kind of made me enjoy my sexuality, like just enjoy that and not feel like I have to suppress it for so long. Doing performance comes with like a lot of gay people around you, right? So like,
I love this little linking you're doing. You're like trying to tie it back. I can see what you're doing.
So yeah, so obviously, that. So like at university as well, like dating and that, it was always really secretive though. So like, and I guess it was because I didn't want anything to get back to my family, even though it was weird because, my university life and everything was so separate from home life. But I was always just like, well, one of the biggest moments for me, Zach, oh my God, was when the highlights was when I went to Manchester. So do you know like the city of Manchester? Do you know the history of it much at all?
I know the history of it. I know the sports in the city. That's about it. That's all I know.
That's all you know. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, so Manchester has like a gay village in it, and like Manchester is one of like the epicenter of like, it reminds me a lot of like, say like New York, it's like there's a big gay scene in New York and places like that, right? And Manchester's always been like that. And I went down to Manchester by myself, obviously, when I did my master's degree. And like, don't get me wrong, that was intensive, all that learning, performing, writing, which is the first place I ever did any writing. But I remember that was the first time I really stepped into like that type of scene.
Yeah.
And, don't get me wrong, like I'm not, scenes like that have perks, good and bad points, right? But I just remember that was the first time really that I felt like it didn't have to be a secret. Like I was with other people, like who were like same sexuality as me, and everyone was just being openly free and just carefree. And that just felt amazing. And I'd like to think that experience, obviously in Manchester, a lot of that is what I brought back to, be the person I am now, kind of just a lot more, carefree, open, confident. And a lot of that came from then. But yeah, like a lot of it was less apps and like online dating and stuff like that. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was some of that, but it was more kind of like, yeah, meeting people in person, I guess. I don't know. I think you can't beat building a connection with someone when you talk to them face to face.
Yeah.
As opposed, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but over there, so I because clearly you're over there and I'm in the U.S. And in the U.S. we have the gay community is very cliquey. I mean, I'd hesitate to even call it a community. It's very cliquey. And, you have the guys who are like, I want a guy who acts like a guy. You have the guys who are super confident with themselves and okay. And like, don't really feed into that toxic side. Is there a lot of that over there? Or is everybody pretty much? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Very good. It's like, if you go out, so like, I mean, obviously Newcastle has a scene. Not that I really go out on it very much, but like, it's kind of like everybody knows everybody. There are little cliques here and there, and just that side of it doesn't do anything for me. And it can be hard to kind of meet people who, to pick out like, people from that you really just kind of get to know and have that connection with. So that's kind of, I guess, where like a lot of online dating can help to a degree. I remember the first time I downloaded a dating app. I mean, obviously, I think every gay person at some point's downloaded Grindr, Tinder. Let me just delete these apps. But
Which one did better for you? What app was that?
hmm, let's have a thing. It might have been prior to them, you know.
Okay, and I
Um,
also like. I think there's also a question of what were you generally looking for? Were you a big hookup person, or were you more of a relationship guy? Did you need some feelings attached?
I think to start with, hookup definitely, and that was
Okay.
just because it was. I was going to say in and out, but bad choice of words.
Yeah.
But
Hey,
it was
hey,
more.
we're going with the gay chat. In and out works, you
We're
know.
going in and out and shake it all about. But I think because again, I try to keep it so kind of secretive. It worked better, right? Just
Mhm.
in, out, done.
Yeah.
And oh my god, I remember there's a story I've told Ian that I need to tell you actually, which I will not share on this podcast.
Oh my
But
goodness,
I'll
that'll
tell
be
you
that'll
next.
be for Nudie Judy, I guess, right?
It will be. I'll tell you it next week, and you can decide.
Perfect, perfect.
But anyway, yeah, that's a story. That's a tale for another time. But yeah, so I guess because I wanted to keep it so secretive, like hookups worked a lot more for me in terms of like in and out, like just meet a guy, do this, go, whatever. But then the first time, you know what? I've only ever had one proper boyfriend, and that was my ex.
Hmm.
And that relationship lasted 4.5 years.
Good
And I
deal of time.
think a long time in gay years, it's like 90 years.
It is.
But a long time, a long relationship. And you know what? From that relationship, I really learned what it was to be in a relationship.
Hmm.
And for all that, we don't really have a friendship or anything now. We didn't part on bad terms. We still, if I saw him, we'd still chat and probably have a really good, conversation, but we're just in different places. We're
Yeah.
literally geographically in different places as well. But I really learned a lot of what it was to kind of get serious with somebody, to rely on somebody, to let somebody fully in and to get to know you and to be vulnerable with somebody and, to let them get into you essentially.
Yeah.
I really learned that from that relationship. And there's so much that I took from that relationship that helped to develop the person I am today. For all that, everybody, I mean, I definitely had like faults and, he had faults as well, but there was great moments, there was great times, and there were some amazing moments in that relationship that I remember. And I think the learning I took from them really helped to develop who I am now.
Yeah.
And those are things I would take into the next relationship I get into, whenever that'll be.
Okay. What kind of guy are you in a relationship? Are you I'm self-admittedly, I'm pretty dramatic. Like I can be chill and easygoing, but I when I get dramatic, I'm a fair bit dramatic. You just seem like a chill dude. So are you just the chill guy, or
I was going to say, what
I
do you
don't know.
think I am, Zach?
I don't know. I'm having arguments in my head with my husband sometimes, that never ever come out. And so,
Oh my
who are
God.
you in a relationship?
That is me 24/7.
Is it?
Like, literally, the
I
amount of
can't. I just
arguments.
can't even imagine. I can't
No.
even
Okay.
imagine.
Okay. So let me break it down. The amount of arguments I've had, or conversations I've had, or words I've had in the shower saying, I should have said this. This is what I would have fucking said in that moment. And then, like, being in a mood for 10 minutes after, being
Yeah.
like, but so don't get me wrong. I am one of the most chilled, laid back people you'll ever meet, and I'll always be, I'd like to think I'm always like, just if there's a problem, we can resolve it. We can do it. Like, let's not focus on the fact that there's an issue. Let's focus on how we resolve it so that we can get back to,
Yeah.
being chill about it. Because I'm not somebody who just likes to dwell in, oh my God, something's happened. Oh my God, something's happened, and just stay in there. Because what does that do? Like, I'm somebody who, if I say, right, we need to do something, let's just do it. Like, I've always had that gumption in me since, I guess, like teenage years, really. Right, this is an issue. Let's get it sorted. Let's do it. Going into that relationship, because he'd been in relationships before, I think he expected a little bit more of me. And because it was my first relationship, I was kind of like, well, what are you talking about? Like, everything's chill. Like, what do you mean? And then over time, as we kind of started to talk, he was a lot more dramatic than me, like hella dramatic. Like, over any little thing, you've left the cup out again. And I was like, oh my God, calm down. Let's go. Just little things like that. But yeah, I think over time, it depends on what it's about. So, like, I'm someone who's really driven by like morals. So if I really fucking believe that I'm in the right,
Yeah.
I will stand my ground. And like, whereas if he thought like, no, you're absolutely, what you say, like if he ever said to me, like sometimes in arguments, like he might say like, oh no, that's complete bullshit. But if it was something I believe so strongly about, I was like, I would just like, no, you've hit a nerve now. Shit's getting real.
Yeah.
But again, that wasn't like all the time. It wasn't always like explosive. We had great times, but I guess I was more like it depended on what the situation was about. If I had my personality or person being questioned, if it was accused me of being somewhere that I knew for a fact that I wasn't, I was like, this argument is happening now.
So that's your move right there, is the questioning of your character.
Person, yeah.
Ah, okay.
That gets under my skin. I don't know what it is.
If I was going to ask him, what would he say the biggest issue with you is?
Ooh,
what's your biggest flaw that really kind of, I don't know, caused an upset with him?
Let's get him on loudspeaker.
Let's do it. We've actually got him on the line right here. I'll patch him through real fast.
The funny thing is, in all of that, is like, how do you know who he is? How have you got his number?
I did my research, Adam. We've had a week to prepare.
Yeah, but okay, so he would probably say,
completely honest, man. Completely honest.
No.
Okay?
I'm going, yeah, 100%. It's weird trying to like retrospectively think about it from someone else's point of view. To be more, I guess, to take a stance and be more assertive in places.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was times when I was really passive, and I guess he would like he would he would like make decisions, and I'd be like, okay, and he'd be like, Adam, like, are you going to decide to do something? Like, are you going to? And that's what I meant about like taking a lot of learning, because I was just really chilled, like so chilled, so relaxed. I was like, yeah, it's fine. I'm so the polar opposite now, where now I've taken that learning, like I'll make a decision, and like if something's going to happen, I'm like, right, we're going to do this, we'll do this. Are you all right with that? Good, let's do it. Whereas before I'd just be like, I'd be really passive, and I think it used to drive me nuts. And I think, like just little things like, we're going to go to the cinema, what we're going to go and see, and like just stupid little things like that. But then when it got to bigger things, like, right, where are we going to live? Like, where are we going to like, choose a house together, where we're going to live? And I'd be like, we'll have a look around. And that obviously doesn't help. You know what I mean? Like, because he obviously is thinking longevity in the relationship, and I'm obviously just like kind of, just chill, everything's good, like where we are now. And it's that type of thing. Like, that's not why the relationship broke, like obviously ended, by the way. There's obviously different reasons there, but that would probably be something that he would say, where he'd be like, Adam, I just wanted you to be like more, I don't want to say involved, but I guess just more assertive in like the decision making and certain things. Whereas now I'd like to think, as I've said, like I've definitely learned from that so much, where like now I'm very different, where all the decisions I make, I make it with people, but I'm there making the decision with them, right? I'm not just like passively sitting back. So probably that, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good, assertive, I think is a really good word. What was that relationship sort of like, as far as dominance and submissiveness? Not sexually, but just, dynamics of the relationship. A little bit of both for each of y'all, or was there somebody who was more submissive than the other?
I think the scales used to tip. So, and weirdly, I think he used to think that he was more assertive and dominant than what he was.
Okay.
Because like I would, excuse me, he was obviously a lot more.
The shade just came out in that cup.
I just felt it in my throat. But he used to think probably that he was more dominant and more assertive. But because I never used to make a big song and dance about things and make a big deal about things, I would, when I got my way, I was never like a big kind of like, this has happened because of it just happened. The scales tipped, I guess. But when as I said before, like when I really felt strongly about something, I was there. I was in the moment. I was like, no. And I can really kind of, when I really put my foot down with something, that's it. And it's really hard to budge me. I can be really stubborn about things sometimes, but it'll be for a reason. It's not just because, like, there's a reason. I really fucking believe in something. So I will put my foot down as and when. But I obviously learned to do that a lot more kind of towards the end of the relationship. And then obviously now as well, but not like in a bad way to like, as I said, be malicious, cause, fracture in relationships or anything like that. It's just more of having like the self-assurance and the self-confidence to believe in that decision,
Yeah. How long ago did that relationship end?
2019. Okay. That's when it ended. November 2019.
Is that still too soon for you to like jump into another one, or?
Hell no.
Are you?
No.
You're out looking for one then?
Yeah.
Okay. Callers. Yeah. So.
Nearly, but nah. I think. Yeah. I mean, he's with somebody new, and good for him. Like I'm pleased for him. Like it's great. It's like it's nice to see, and that's no shade for me. I'm honestly I'm pleased for him. Dead happy for him. But I guess for me as well, like my career,
Yeah.
which I guess we'll talk about later on, really stepped in where I didn't have time for anything, Zach. Like I was so focused on studying for like over a year that the idea of entertaining a relationship alongside that didn't factor in. It couldn't. I didn't have time. I
You're
barely had
talking
time
about
to.
while you were with him
No, 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 no.
or
So this after.
after. Okay.
So when I started my job that I have now,
Hmm.
I remember like literally it was week one of training, and we did that thing where like like it's very corporate where people like you have like a big A3 sheet of paper and like you write on what is Adam, what are you into? So I was like writing stuff down, and I remember because I was engaged, like we were engaged for like the last year and a half of that relationship, and I was wearing my engagement ring in the room, and I remember like saying, "Oh, I'm Adam, like I'm engaged," and like all this blah 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 blah. And then literally it was like the next week, like my engagement ring was gone. Yeah, obviously, we'd split up. And that was like the first week of training for this new job. And I guess one of the perks of that is because it was so intensive, it was like going back to school, right? There's so much to learn. Because it was so intensive, it kind of happened weirdly at the best time where I didn't have time to sit and dwell
Yeah.
like by myself and really kind of like, feel that impact. And I remember like just because I was so focused on this work, like there was assessments every week, there was so much to take in. I kind of got swept up in that and it was a great distraction. But I remember going to see my friend after like 2 weeks and we were just chilling. That was like the first time since I broke out of like that, that really strong revision and that learning for the job. And I absolutely broke down because it just hit me in that moment. That was the first time of like silence when I got to actually process that relationship and what happened and the fact that it wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
And like my friend was amazing for me, like it was incredible. And he obviously knows and is friends with my ex as well. So it was a great person to chat to. But yeah, like that just really hit me. But since I got that out of my system and kind of processed it and we had a long chat about things, and I was fine. Don't get me wrong, there was times as you know, like when you finish relationships, there was times after when you kind of sit and you think about things every now and again. Like it would kind of hit you at different times, maybe like at night when you're lying in bed and whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, because it happened when I was in the middle of training for a brand new intensive job, that helped to keep me going really.
You do seem like the type of person who does set up distractions because you're so calm, cool, and collected, right? And I really only know you from the internet, so I don't know you in real life. I don't know how you are as like as a friend that I would see day to day. But you do seem like you're somebody who would set up distractions rather than like fully delve into an, really intense emotion and emotional moments. Is that accurate, or do you think you're pretty good with going into those emotional moments and kind of riding them out and getting them out and purging all of that?
I'm probably the latter.
Okay.
I'm good at going into those emotional moments, but when I'm by myself.
Mm.
I'm not somebody who likes to cry in front of other people. I don't know what it is. It's just
Yeah.
I like to process it myself. And I'll do that I'll go into those emotions and I'll do it myself. Sometimes I'll be watching a film and something will just trigger.
Mm.
Or like I'll listen to a song and something will just trigger. And especially in that time, like there was a lot of, for all I was distracted, don't get me wrong. And like that was a great help
Yeah.
to process that. But, once I was kind of through that and I really took the time to sit down and just think about it and like process it properly, probably 90% of that happened just me. Whereas, I had that moment with my friend, don't get me wrong, and it was incredible. And it was the first time I really acknowledged it. First time he's ever seen me cry as well. He's been my friend for like years. But yeah, I'm more of like a solo cry.
Okay.
Yeah, just get it out of my system. But I will do it because I understand how important that is to do.
Mm.
It's really important to understand that, to like get that emotion out. I tend not to be somebody who bottles things up, and I don't like that. I think it does so much for your mental health and
Mm.
affects you in so many different ways. And I've watched one of my brothers do that for years, and it can affect people so badly. And so, yeah, I'd say I am. It depends on what the circumstances, but also I'm much more of a solo person with that.
Yeah, and that's fair. I think that's how a lot of people are. There's so many people who don't like crying in front of others, right?
Yeah.
Um, we're kind of transitioned into your adult life now. You know, you have this love for performing, and that sorts to start to manifest itself in different ways. I'm assuming acting kind of branches into other forms of performing, right?
Yeah.
But performing as it's seen through like a societal lens, right, is not like the most practical thing. It's like people like us creatives, explaining that, like that we do that or we're trying to do that for a living, like our ultimate goal would be to be creative for a living. It's
Yeah.
like a lot of people don't get that, you know. They're like, well, especially like older generations, they're like, well, what are you going to do practically? What's your career going to be, right? So how do you
Hmm.
sort of did you always sort of go for that creative aspect, or did you realize pretty early on that, oh, well, I guess I need a career, I need to kind of go for something, because you've said that, or you've told me that your train driving job is not the most creative outlet, but yet you're doing it, right? And there's a
Mm.
practical element to that. So I don't know what. Yeah, just give me your thoughts on that. I guess I don't even really have a question.
I get what you're asking though. So
Yes. Okay.
I think for me, it's kind of like what you said. So it's like it's practicality versus, creativity, right? Passion. So
Yeah.
like for a long time, I actually thought I was going to become a drama teacher, like for a long time. And I actually did a teaching degree and like I
Yeah.
nearly did it. And I kind of thought like that'll be the best of both worlds, where I get to still be involved in something I love, but that I've got a
Absolutely.
stable job, So I kind of
Yeah.
thought like, and as well, like working with people, like, still acting with them and stuff like that. And, I thought that would be great. And the only reason I didn't continue it and pursue it, because I did like, I did the training and everything. And like, I like taught students for like a year and everything and like loved it. And like that feedback from like seeing students learn something that I taught them and everything, I loved that. Like I ate it up so much. It was great. But I remember like the economy took a big dip in the UK for teachers, and especially in like, specialist subjects like drama, I guess. Like if you had some of the core subjects, like if you were an English teacher, a maths teacher, a science teacher, you tend to be more looked after. But if like it was like drama teachers, everything, it was more like the art base, they were taking a big dip. And
Yeah.
I remember thinking like shit, like I'm trying to get into this industry and we're in the moment of taking a massive like, financial dip. And I was like, oh God, like what am I going to do? And then it was kind of a case of like after I did my teaching degree, I came kind of back from Manchester and I was like, oh God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I remember seeing the job. So when I first joined the railway, it was kind of like twofold. I remember thinking, I'll just get a part-time job, but it means that because one of the perks of being on the railway is you get free travel. So I was like, I can travel to London. I can still do auditions down there, right? Like I can still like do acting and do this part-time. And as you said, Zach, it's exactly that. Like in like any job to do performance, there's so much competition. It's so tough, and it's hard to sustain financially anything on that. I've done extras work in the past. It's great paid, but you never know when your next job's going to be. So you don't know how long, when that money's going to come in, how long you have to make something last. It's really, really tough. And I remember doing that. And then once I joined the railway, I just remember thinking, right, I'm in this now. Like, this is my career. I've tried some of the acting stuff and it's working great. But again, from beat to beat, there's different times where, like, sometimes it'll be months, sometimes it'll be 6 months, sometimes it'll be 2 weeks. You can't rely on it.
Yeah.
And then it kind of just, I looked at my career and I was like, I wonder how far I can take this. Like, how far can I go in it? And I just set myself a challenge. So, I mean, being a train driver is, don't get me wrong, it's unbelievable. Like the amount of training you go through, the actual job itself, like driving a train for 3 hours in one direction is insane. And then to come back and do it again, it's mind blowing. People don't understand. And it's like one of the things you don't really get unless you see it or unless like I really go into depth about it.
Yeah.
But again, because of that job, it's so strict on rules. And it has to be because, you're dealing with health and safety of people, right? So there's rules in place. It's very strict, it's very stringent. And like those are fixed for a reason. And that makes sense. So because of that, you're learning rules and like the structure there, and there's no movement. And that is not what creativity is.
Yeah.
Creativity is about not necessarily, sometimes not even having rules, just kind of being free to explore, try different things, be creative, and like, flex that creative muscle, so to speak. So the balance in that's really interesting in where, I really pursued that job because it was a challenge for me. I was like, can I do that? I think I can. And again, this goes back to if I set myself a goal and do something, I'll try everything I can to do it and get it. And I got it. And I mean, don't get me wrong, huge sense of achievement, like when I got that, because I honestly never ever imagined I would ever do that job. And it was more kind of like proving myself that I can do it. But again, as I say, I still have that creative inside of me. I'm
Yeah.
still a creative person. And that is something that I always need to feed because that is who I am.
I think I would
And
even like peg you for like more creative person than anything. I think a lot of people who do follow you, on this channel or through social media, like see you much more creative than like, a train driver.
yeah,
Like you are so outwardly creative that people already pick that up. And
Mm,
I think you do that balance really well. And what I found really interesting about that was that you were kind of picking careers or going through, sifting through like possible careers
mm,
based on how you would be able to integrate your creative side into that. Like, so with the train driving, well, if I can get free travel and go on auditions using this, like that's fucking, that's cool. That's really cool.
yeah,
And I had never thought of it that way, right? Because I
yeah.
remember leaving college and being like, or even in college and being like, what the hell am I going to do, right? Like, I
Yeah.
don't know. And all the careers I would go through were just practicality reasons. And I never really connected my creative side to any of those. YouTube is just something that fell into my lap, and even that's not like a creative thing. Like I'm kind of hustling from thing to thing. Just I'm on a constant like treadmill of hustle. But I love that you sort of integrated what can sort of benefit your creative side with whatever you're doing for the practicality reasons. That's
Yeah,
fucking
man.
cool, man.
Yeah, man. And you know what? That still can happen now. I mean, I still
Yeah,
get free travel. Do you know what I mean? So that
yeah,
can still, and it has happened.
yeah,
Like when I have gone on auditions and stuff like that. And I think it's just something that it's a part of you that you can't let go. Like it's so intrinsically who I am. And
yeah.
so any way I can keep that going and like work around so that I can still pursue that, I'm gonna damn well do it, Zach. Because I mean,
What's
at the end of the day.
what's the sort of like work schedule for you? Are you like a couple days on, a couple days off?
Yeah, I mean, so to be honest, like, trains run all times of the day. So obviously,
Yeah,
we've joked in the past where you're like, Adam, it's like 4 a.m. Why are you up?
yeah,
Because, like you can work any time,
yeah.
literally can. But it's like, it's different. Some days you work 6 days a week, some days you work four. It's quite random. It's like a fixed 33-week roster. So I've got it in my diary. So I know when I'm off like next year because it just rolls around and around.
Hmm.
So I know like when my days off are, I know what days I'm in. So it's good to work out like that. But yeah, it's like all hours of the day. There's like
And so
night shifts included. And
your
yeah,
off days and all of that you're devoting to your channel and podcasting and all of that. So you're not a
that's right.
procrastinator then. You can't be a procrastinator if you're doing all of this.
It depends on what I'm doing. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if it's something to be creative, then no. Like I think I just get stuck into it. I kind of throw myself into that, and I just
Okay.
kind of think, let's roll with it. And I think probably that comes across on the channel a little bit with some of the stuff I've uploaded before in the past, where it's like, let's just try this, let's give it a go and see what picks up traction. But
Hmm.
procrastination, it depends. It like depends on what it is. But when I know I need to be on my game, like doing like the podcast, like into you, I've got to be on my game. I've got to be ready. So like I've got that shit ready. You know what I mean? For
Yeah.
the moment the person logs on, we have a chat, I'm ready. So like you can't procrastinate your way through that.
Yeah.
Whereas like it depends like other things. If I've got like, I don't know, people have sent me like some videos and like, oh, can you like react to this? I'm like, okay, well, let me just clean the house first. Let me let me just go for a walk. And so it depends, it's give and take.
Yeah, and so then okay, so you kind of I think we've talked about this before, and I think you kind of mentioned this at the beginning of this recording. You sort of stepping into a life online, right? You're starting to react to videos, you're starting to do podcasting. You said you did your first podcast, what was it, Pinpoint, in
Yeah,
2017, and then
that's right.
you started these two. It was 2021, correct? Okay.
Yeah, 21.
Yeah, so a life online and starting to do things more creatively in this sort of space is so much different than like going out on auditions or trying to book acting gigs or like doing modeling. Um, do you think that this is kind of taking over a large chunk of that creative time for you? And are you okay with that? Like, what are your ambitions with a life online? Do you kind of just want to do this in the meantime and pursue acting a little bit more hardcore, or are you enjoying this sort of success and want to keep this momentum going?
So, I mean, kind of yes, yes, and yes.
Okay, a lot of questions
So,
there. Let's just yeah,
I'm like, yeah, but no, it's an interesting question. I think over primarily yes, and because it's accessibility. So, like going for auditions,
mm-hmm.
like it can be tough. Like sometimes you get nothing back. Whereas I know that I can log on, look at like some suggestions from people who have like left me stuff, and then
Yeah,
go and make a video, and like people then join in the conversation. Us doing this right now, Zach, like I love this. Like you and I met because of this, right?
yeah,
This could never have happened if it was just kind of like like pursuing just auditions and things like that. I'm not just saying just in a bad way. I just mean it's very different, right? So like this is a lot more immediate. I can dip into this whenever I want. In terms of the acting, it's like whatever's available, and even that's got a yes and a no attached to it. A lot more no's than yes.
Yeah.
So that can be really tough. Whereas this, I know that it's more immediate. You know, like I can dip into it, I can create a video, it's out there, and I've done that. You know, you and I, like, we met this way, and this is what I love about this stuff is that I've met some incredible people since going online. Like honestly, like you, Ian, like some of the artists who like I still chat to now. I mean, like that artist's mother reached out to me, you know, stuff like that. Like recently I went to London and I went to see an artist called Ivor. She private messaged me a few months back and said like, oh, my sister sent me your video. I just want to say thank you very much. And I was like, oh my actual God, what? And then months later, I go to London to see her. And then I get literally, I was about to leave, like after the show. Throughout the show, she like, kept looking over at me and smiling. And I was like, does she recognize me? Does she remember me? And then at the end of the show, she sent me a DM and she was like, Adam, tell the merch lady that, you know, you're my special backstage guest. Come back and
my gosh. I followed your journey with this on social media and I thought it was so fucking cool.
Amazing, right? To go from like just a little video, I was like, yeah, let's check out. So then I remember I ran back in and like the merch lady was there and I like thrust my phone in her face and I was like, I've got this. And she was just like, calm down, you lunatic. And then like she read the message, like, yeah, I'll take you backstage. I've still got the backstage pass actually next door. And I was just like, oh my God, is this happening? And then, and then I went backstage and then she came over to me. She literally pointed at me. She went, Adam. And I was like, Ivor. And then she gave me a massive hug. And then she said to me, she was like, you know what, Adam, like your video is the first type of that video I've ever seen ever. And I was like, what? Like, I was like, they're quite big. And she was like, yours is the first one. And like that video has done really, really well. It's like 40,000 views or something. But and like because of that, Zach, and that's kind of the way I sum it up. Like if I didn't start this in 2020, like during lockdown, you know, like that wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't even know who she was because that was a suggestion of somebody to check her out. Like, I would have probably still watched your vlogs, but we wouldn't be doing this now. Do you know what I mean? Like, Ian and I wouldn't have recently been on Slayerfest 98's podcast. Like, that wouldn't have happened. So it's so great how it's opened up all these opportunities just from deciding to do that.
Absolutely. It's wild that works out, right? Like you always have. When I was younger, my big thing was like, and I think with you as well, because that has to go into performing, is storytelling. Like I wanted to be a storyteller. I didn't know how I wanted to do it. And I settled on I wanted to be a writer pretty early on. That's what I wanted to do. And so like falling into something like YouTube where I can kind of practice filming stuff, you know. I mean, it's like a couple videos, right? But like I'm practicing, you know, honing a skill and like filming and editing and all of that. So that kind of fell into my lap. And like with you, like you were super into acting and performing and YouTube kind of fell into your lap. And it's so interesting that something that just happenstance falls into your lap. You get so much from it, and it's like a whole new avenue of your life, right? Like you have all of these new experiences because of that, and you meet all of these new people. What are your bigger ambitions with a life online? Where are you wanting to go with it?
Obviously, I'll always kind of describe myself as an actor at heart, and I'd love to do more performance-based stuff. So obviously, you know, you've seen like little videos that I've done, and like I've got my acting kind of show reel on there at the moment. I would love to use this to really kind of go back in that performance sphere, you know, right? Really use this. And like, I've had conversations with casting agencies and like, you know, who have made it clear that like having an online presence is a really big deal for people that want to go into performance, huge. And to think that never crossed my mind to start it. When I started doing this channel, when I started doing this stuff, it was just to pass the time, just something to do because we were in lockdown. But then as it's gone on and it's kind of grown arms and legs and opportunities like this have happened, you know, and like opportunities like that with Ivo, I've met some incredible people and like, you know, obviously, I mean, nearly 30,000 subscribers, but people kind of start to take notice and like it becomes a platform to really kind of, I guess, show talents, right? To kind of show off abilities. And again, just as an avenue to say, all right, okay, well, if you want to see some of my work, what I'm all about, check out this. You know, it's just something like a body of stuff that can kind of show you as you. But I mean, stuff like voiceover work, I've gotten stuff like that from it now, just from because of doing stuff like this, talking about stuff like this, my acting reel.
Yeah.
That's on there now. People have seen that, and like people have mentioned that before. So it's really good, kind of almost like creating like weirdly like an online CV of like a body of work as well. It's a great reference point to still explore that creativity, but show that body of work to people in the avenue of like taking it back into performance. That's what I'd love to do. I'd
Yeah.
love to go back into acting. And like a few of my mates have joked and said, Adam, when you go to America, you're not going to come back. And I'm like, well, that would be the dream. But
Yeah.
but like, I'd love to be able to like, use it in that avenue, like thinking ahead, thinking right into the
Yeah.
future. Like really explore performance more, really take it there, really make some things. I'm already in conversations with some guys who do a lot of filming who were saying like, we'd love to work with you on some concepts. That wouldn't have happened, like if I didn't have stuff like this to show them with. And like, not to toot my own horn, but one of them did say like, Adam, like you recorded that video, that little horror thing, Invader, like by yourself with just one camera. And I was like, yeah, that was just me, just messing around, really. That's all it was, just messing around. And he was like, if we can take that and really kind of like build it out and like, bring different camera shots and like work with other people, and we could really get something. So we're in talks with that now, which is really exciting. And that's for me, that's what I love. Like doing this stuff is allowed for stuff like that to happen. So that's where I'd love to take the direction of it more, to be honest.
It's so smart to do too. Like realizing that also while also being like appreciative of the audience you
Yeah,
have. The
yeah.
audience you have, like being able to say you have this audience in so many different fields is like such a benefit, right? Like if you wanted to
Mm-hmm.
write a book and you show them, hey, I've got an audience already that I would potentially buy this book. Yeah, that's a benefit. If you're and talks to do like some film work, short films, you show them, hey, I've already kind of got an audience who would kind of watch this. It's great. It's great stuff. Do you ever feel kind of pressured to sort of divide up your channel? Because I can already see on your channel you've got like all of these different kind of ideas that you're just throwing out there, and you're wanting to explore different sorts of avenue of like this or these different avenues of creativity. Do you ever
Mm.
feel the need to like divide up that channel and create different channels, or like are you good keeping it all on one?
It crosses my mind because obviously
Yeah,
some of them, like a podcast is very different from a reaction video,
yeah.
like a
And then a
vlog
short
as well.
film, and then a
And then a
short
short
film.
film,
Yeah,
yeah, like
yeah,
it's all like one big mixing pot and it's all going in. Yeah, I've thought about it. But I think for me it's more like obviously you've kind of got like your main channel and that's where most of
yeah,
the audience is, but it's seeing the reaction to that stuff. It's like putting the feelers out. And although that, don't get me wrong, like a lot of people, the majority of people came onto the channel because of the reaction videos. But it's interesting because that's still an audience to try things with and to
yeah,
see what people enjoy. So like when I did that, I remember like that short film, I like literally did like a YouTube live. So like the countdown, and I was like, there'll be like 3 people in the chat. And there was like maybe 200 odd. And I was like, whoa, like I was
yeah,
not expect. So again, it just shows like for me, that's proof, right? There's interest
yeah.
there. Let me give this a go. Let me try this. Like it's just a great platform to try things on the main channel just to see what sticks. And then if one thing does really pick up a lot of traction, well then yeah, take it to a separate channel and like focus on there. And hopefully the audience will come with that as well. But yeah, it's just a great platform, really, isn't it, to try things really.
Absolutely. Look, my success came from vlogging and like showing who I am and
Yeah.
stuff like that, like very narcissistic sort of content. But and so when I started doing other things, if I started doing short films or like started, doing my Bloody Judy and it didn't do as well,
Mm,
that was a little bit discouraging for me. If you ever try something that doesn't sort of hit like your main content does, because nothing's going to hit like your main content does, like that's your bread and butter.
yeah.
Is that discouraging, or is that something that you just kind of shrug off and you just keep going?
It can be. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. Because you put passion into it, right?
yeah,
And you think it's the best thing ever. And you want people to thrive off that. You want people to ride that wave, right?
yeah,
So it can be discouraging when you're like, oh man, like, don't get me wrong, like, and I kind of get that on my channel, like some reaction videos, like the numbers, like, and the comments just soar because people are passionate about those artists, right? And some
yeah,
people will only come to the channel when they see a video of that artist and that's it. And that, I mean, I am thankful for that. That's incredible. Anyone who checks out the channel, I'm really thankful for that. I really, really am. I think that's amazing. But yeah, when you I remember like the first kind of maybe 2 episodes of interview podcasts that I put out there, and like the traction was just really like low numbers. But I was like, you know what? Like, what's the more likeliness is if I keep going, it'll pick up.
yeah,
So if I just drop off now, well, then that never happened. And then, so that's why I just thought, like, that's why straight I was like, right, I'm putting the feelers out. I'm going to get some episodes out. I'm just going to try and see what we can get. So obviously, I contacted you to see if you want to do an episode. I like, did stuff with Ian, like the latest one, like Helen, the writer, like the guitarist from the band Lord of the Lost, Pie Stopper, is one of my favorite episodes. And like stuff like that, it was just putting it out there. And because those people are coming on, they pull a brand new audience as well with them. And so that's really interesting as well to have like my Twitter feed, since I got Helen on, the like obviously the writer, the amount of followers I have writers now is unbelievable just because of that on the podcast.
Yeah.
And like when I got like Pi Stoffers on, the like guitarist in the band, the amount of like other people that love that band came over and checked out the podcast. So I think, yeah, just in my mind, I was kind of like, yes, I was a bit discouraged. I could stop this. I could just, go back to what does really well. But I really want to just keep going because I just fucking love it.
Yeah,
like I just
absolutely.
enjoy it. And I want more people to enjoy that. And like now, because I'm at a point where I've had a few episodes out, quite a few to be fair. And like this is kind of like, kind of saying like this is going to be like the wrap up of season 1. But now I've got people asking me if they can come on. And I never ever thought that would be a thing. Like I'm just someone who was like, oh my God, I'm trying to scramble to find people. But now the fact that it's at that stage, I kind of think if I hadn't kept going, that wouldn't have happened, So yeah, it can be a little bit, it can take a hit. Like the first kind of few episodes of like last week on, like barely anyone even any listened or even
I
knew
wanted
what
to
it
come
was.
on that one so bad. I just didn't want to ask you, but I wanted to be on that one because y'all were talking about Invincible. Oh my gosh, such a great show! I can't wait.
Come on, you can come on. Well, we'll talk about it after this. You come on.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll kind of bring it to the geek out with the guest portion, right? Start wrapping up a little bit.
Yeah.
Did you read over this one? So I'll read it verbatim.
Oh, I did. I've got some babies here.
We've bonded over our love for media, specifically television and film. Give me 3 shows, movies, directorial efforts, performances, etc., that you feel are underrated and deserve the defense.
All right. So have you got some as well?
I got a couple. So we'll start with you. We'll just bounce off, sort of like we did last time with my episode.
Cool. Yeah. So this is a film. Now, when I mention this film, people think I'm talking about the TV show, and I'm like, no. The film's so different. And I think I'm literally the only person, me and my dad, because I made him watch it, are the only people that have seen it. But it's this film here, so it's Mr. Nobody.
Oh, you even have it. You got the physical.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So this is Jared Leto. So it's Diane Kruger as well, I believe. Yeah. So yeah, basically Mr. Nobody. So I remember I saw a trailer for this, like somewhere random, totally random, and I was like, Jared Leto's got a new film out, because literally, like, it was like this film came from nowhere, and it's a film basically about. It's like such an interesting concept where. So Jared Leto plays this character where when he was like, when in the conception phase, it was, this crease everybody's got on their lip here. So there's an angel going along, and when this brand new baby's kind of, being born, they like the angel like touches the baby's here and gives them that crease. Oh, really? Jared Leto is the baby that gets missed out. So it's like she becomes distracted, and like he goes by and she misses him out, but he's still born. But because of that, it gives him the ability where if there's ever a fork in the road in life, he has the ability to go back and change things to try the other way. So like the film starts where he's like 118-year-old man, and he's reflecting back on his life. And this is the final decision now. He's like, look, I've gone back through my life. I've tried all the different paths now. I've gone down to see how things would have gone, and I've lived them. I'm done now. But he's telling his life story of the decisions he's made. So he falls in love with like 3 different women, and that's because he chose different paths through the life. I think that's such an interesting concept. And I loved that film, but nobody's seen it.
I've not seen it. I've never heard of that. But that sounds like the most Jared Leto concept of a movie ever. It's very,
so
very on brand for Jared Leto.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that one out. Yeah, that is out there. I like when people get really creative with their concepts, right? Oh my goodness. Okay.
She's jumping in.
I do like when people get really creative with their concepts and just different story, because so many stories are just reused and recycled so often that you kind of, I don't know, everything kind of like blends together. But one of the, this doesn't go along with my list, but one of the like best stories I'd ever like heard, and I only heard it, the past few years, was Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I thought that concept was like, how does somebody even come up with this, right? I was like, this is wild to me.
One of my favorite films of all time. Yeah.
Same.
Oh my God.
It was a recent watch for me within the past 3 years. It had to have been, and it just like does not leave my mind. I'm just like,
I'm
how do you
literally
come
like,
up with the concept like this exactly? I guess one I would say is, have you ever seen The Dead Girl?
no.
It's I don't even think it was like super widely released, but Brittany Murphy was in it, and she played the dead girl, and
Okay.
it's different. It's sort of like an anthology film that all plays into one bigger story. So like Tony Collette is also in it. In the
Oh,
beginning, Tony
nice.
Collette finds which all of Tony Collette's are like performances are underrated. I still don't
Yeah.
understand how she hasn't won an Oscar by now.
Agreed. Agreed.
But like, so she lives with her mother, and she's like an older age, and she goes out walking one day. She's kind of like isolated. She goes out walking one day, and she finds a dead girl. It's Brittany Murphy,
Yeah.
and she calls the police, and it kind of goes through different people's stories in relation to this dead girl. So we got the person who found her. We've got the person who is married to the guy who killed her. We've got the sister and the mother. And so you kind of go through all of that. And then at the very end is like Brittany Murphy's section, The Dead Girl. If you search it on YouTube, I'm sure you can find Brittany Murphy's like portion of it because it's only like 10-15 minutes. Her
Oh, really?
her whole part
Oh,
of it.
right, right.
Yeah. It's the very end. And it's just her performance in that was so amazing. And I
Mm.
was like 14, 15 when maybe watched it. And that's another one that just never left my mind. And I always felt like Brittany Murphy was never appreciated like she should have been because she had some of the most magnetic performances that I've ever seen on film.
Yeah, she was incredible, man. I mean, 8 Miles.
Incredible.
Yeah. Did you ever hear those rumors that she was going to be cast as Harley Quinn in Christopher Nolan's Batman?
I did not know. I
Can you
could have
imagine
seen
how
it.
awesome that would have been, though?
I
Her and
would
Heath
have
Ledger
seen it.
together
Yeah.
would have been. Yeah, there was rumors happened, and obviously, with the unfortunate passing, like he just kind of scrapped that idea altogether.
Yeah.
But that would have been so good, and I could see it. She would have played that so well. But yeah, like I mean, 8 Mile, just yeah, everything she really gave
Yeah.
the commitment to. She was great. Yeah,
She
completely
was
agree.
fantastic, and I think all of her performance again like are underrated. And she had
Yeah.
a great voice. She was a great singer. Like she had the full package.
Mhm.
God, I could go on forever about her. She was just one of those stars that were kind of like ruined by Hollywood, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so agreed.
What else you got?
All right, so next little one here. Um, have you heard of a film? This is probably more known than Mr. Nobody. Cloud Atlas.
Yes.
Yeah, so you know of it, right?
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
I have seen that one.
You have seen it. All
Yes, I
right.
have. Yeah.
Oh,
That came
nice
out. What
one.
year was that? That was a good bit ago.
Oh, it's like, is it 2012 maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a while back. So, all right. So obviously the Wachowskis worked on this with another director as
Okay.
well. So Tom, is it Tiger? Yeah. So I'm a big fan of the Wachowskis. Like I mean, The Matrix, like stuff like I mean, they wrote the script for like screenplay for V for Vendetta. Like, I just think their artistic vision, I think, is
Yeah.
incredible. Like what they're able to catch. I mean, the first Matrix film is iconic, right? Like what they do and the way they like see, not even just sci-fi, the way that they shoot stuff, I think is so well done. And then, so when I heard they were like doing Cloud Atlas, I was like, right, I'm in. And weirdly, Cloud Atlas was like, I don't know if you know, but Natalie Portman was reading the book on the set of V for Vendetta and she recommended it to them. That's
Oh,
how it was
really? I
made.
didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
No.
Yeah. So it's like obviously it's a huge anthology, really, isn't it? It's different stories, it's different timelines, there's different settings. I've never seen anything like it ever. And I remember watching it 2012. So obviously you've got some big names there. You've got like Halle Berry, you've got Tom Hanks. I think Hugh Grant's in there in a random role. Susan Sarandon's in. It's just for me, I loved it because this was like a big opening of like anthology storytelling for me, like
Yeah.
stories which are all happening at the same time and in different locations, but like different time zones as well and how they overlap and interweave with one another, like characters playing different roles in different time. I just never seen anything like it. And like this was before like, I started watching stuff like American Horror Story and stuff like that, which does a similar thing, right? It's one of these films I've tried to get like one of my best friends to watch it all the time. So I know he'd fucking love it, and he hasn't seen it, and he won't watch it. And I'm like, you're driving me nuts. You love this film, just watch it. But I love it. I love it. I've never seen anything like it, and I just always say, if anyone's going to watch it, just go into it. Obviously, it's
Yeah.
a long one, but it's worth it.
Yeah. I'm looking at stats for it right now. So it didn't even make that much money.
No,
130 million is a lot of money, but like compared to its budget, its budget was
yeah,
like between 100 and 140 million. So it hardly made like anything.
yeah,
That's always disappointing, because like you mentioned, there's so many people like involved in the making of it that it was set up for success.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, the cast list on the front, there's some big names on
yeah,
this.
I'll have
And
to
it was set up.
rewatch that because it's been forever since I've seen that one.
Yeah, it's been a minute. I mean, yeah, it's been a while since I've watched. I'm gonna have to go back to it to be honest. But yeah, just visually as well, it's stunning. Like you can tell when the Wachowskis step up and direct their roles. There's like a very futuristic storyline in there,
Yeah,
and it's just literally The Matrix, but it looks stunning. And just their eye for detail and their kind of directorial eye, like vision is just I love it.
yeah.
I always say as an actor, I always have like a top list of like directors I would love to work with, and they're always in my top five.
Mm.
Like, yeah. So yeah, check it out, Cloud Atlas, man.
Absolutely. Okay. My next one up, I think I got. Have you ever seen 13? A lot of people have seen
Yes.
it by this point.
Yeah.
But I remember growing up with that movie and being like, how has nobody ever seen this? And I used to show it to fucking everybody.
Yeah.
I used to show it to everybody. So Catherine Hardwicke, it was the director of that. And I feel like her shit is just not talked about enough. She did 13. She did Lords of Dogtown. You know, she's fantastic director.
Mm.
She made that movie on like no money. It was like bare bones guerrilla filmmaking. You know, they like rented a house and just filmed it, you know, over a month, and it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
really really good. So her Catherine Hardwicke, I think.
I like it.
Yeah.
What else do you like by her?
Oh, I think she did Twilight. I do quite enjoy the Twilight
I was
franchise, I have
waiting for
to say. Yeah,
that.
she did the first one. She didn't go on to do the other ones, but I think the first one was like it's like dripping in Catherine Hardwicke goodness. That's like
Mm.
very much her style. So I think
Yeah.
13's my favorite. Lords of Dogtown is second, and then I do really like Twilight. She did like a nativity story also at one point that I didn't really
Did
vibe
she?
with. It was either a
What?
nativity story, I believe so. It was some Bible story. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure. Hold on, I'm gonna look it up because I'm pretty sure it was the nativity story.
That's
But
really left field, like from
it
Twilight
was.
to the
I think.
Nativity.
I think it was that was one of the last like more notable ones that were it was more mainstreamed, I guess. Yeah, the nativity story that was right before Twilight too. Oh, I thought that came after
Oh wow,
Twilight.
really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. She also did Red Riding Hood. I didn't know she did that one.
Oh really? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. She's
But
done
yeah,
some bangers actually.
she's pretty good. I think people need to hire her a little bit more.
She's got such an artistic style as well. I mean, like when you watch the first Twilight,
Yeah,
it's so artistically done, isn't it? Like the color palette and everything like that on it.
yeah.
It's like it's such a style, and that's such trademark to her. And when you kind of mention like 13 now, and you think back, you can see like that
Oh,
style that carries over.
fucking crazy. That movie just like I could talk. We'll have to do a whole last episode on that too.
Oh,
That's a
and
good
we
one.
will.
Yeah,
All right. So my last one, right?
yeah.
All right. So this is a TV show. This is one of my all-time favorites, and it stars Anna Tove, which not a lot of people know who she is. She was in Mindhunter, if anyone's seen that as well. But Joshua Jackson, who is in it, and then Lance Reddick, and a few other people as well, big names. But it's the TV show Fringe, so I have it here.
Mm,
So have you heard of Fringe?
I have heard of it. I've never seen it though.
All right. So J.J. Abrams was like the man who helped like basically write and develop Fringe, and like it's all about fringe science. So it's all kind of like X-Files stuff, right? So they've got a case, they go out and investigate it. It's all very like hush hush because it's like strange, like fringe science events that's happened. Why I loved it so much, I've just never seen anything like it else. It's like a modern day X-Files, but so much like better, just really
Yeah.
well done. Nice to see Joshua Jackson step into a role as well, where it's just completely different from some of his older type rom-com type stuff. And he even said in an interview, he's like, I love this show. Like, this is exactly what I would watch. This is the thing I love so much. Anna Torv is one of the most underappreciated actresses I have ever seen in my life. Like, she is incredible. So she plays Olivia Denham in this. And like later on in the season, they go into like where there's like alternative realities. So there's like another version of them. So each of the actors plays another version of the same role. And like she plays like, oh my God, like how that woman hasn't won awards is beyond me. She's just like, as a lead actress stepping into a role, like virtually kind of unknown prior to this, but just kills in that role. And I remember as well, because J.J. Abrams obviously had a little bit to do with Lost in the first seasons. And there was talk of a potential crossover. And I was so excited because like Fringe came after Lost. And I was like, oh my God, are they going to like do something where there's like a mention of cast of Lost or something? But it never happened. And I was devastated. But it was like an idea that they just like thought about
That
for a while.
would have
Just,
been fantastic. Just
I
like
would
any
have,
sort of crossover with that, right?
I love any crossovers. I mean,
Okay.
like, Buffy and Angel crossovers, adore it. But
Yeah.
anything, even like Ally McBeal did a crossover with another show at one point.
Did it
But
really?
yeah, yeah. So it's
Which
like,
I was
yeah,
that?
yeah. I think it was Boston Legal? Was that a show? But yeah. So it was Ally McBeal was filmed in Boston, and I think Boston Legal was the show. So basically, there was two actors. I think Dylan McDermott was in that because he and another actor from that series come into Ally McBeal into that law firm and they do a case. But then
Okay.
Ally McBeal and another actor go into Boston Legal as themselves and they do a case where like they're like
That's so
lawyers sorting out a
funny.
case. But I love shit like that. I love crossover stuff. So yeah, good that never happened. But Fringe, honestly, don't be sleeping on Fringe.
No,
It's
I'll have to check it out. You know,
solid.
it's so funny you bring up like an actor, like a television actress who just doesn't get her dues, right? Because right
Mm,
behind you, Miss Sarah Michelle Gellar, still never
yes,
gets her dues. I think I don't have like a specific performance or movie or television show that
I
like
think you
she
do.
wasn't appreciated in, but I
Yeah,
think just overall she wasn't
yeah.
appreciated enough. She should have had access to some of the latest and greatest like projects.
Hmm.
Like even more recent stuff that are just like the mom role. She could have still done a mom role, like
Yeah.
me and my husband went and watched the new Ghostbusters, and we were watching it, and we were like, she could have played that fucking mom right there, and she would have been
100%.
so good in that too.
She would have been
You know,
amazing as like turning into the creature and the dress and everything.
yeah,
Yeah, she would have been. Yeah, and her and Paul Rudd would probably had great chemistry as well. Like them
amazing
did good work.
chemistry. Yeah, they would
Yeah,
have done
yeah,
really well together. I think she just, I feel like she is semi-retired. I feel like she makes that
yeah,
choice herself because there's no way
yeah.
people are not offering her stuff at this point.
Right? I mean,
Uh,
I'm the same. Do you ever do this when you watch a film and like you have an actor or actress in mind and you're like, they would be so good here?
all the
Like I
time,
think
all the time.
yeah, same all the time. Like I remember watching like A Quiet Place and like Emily Blunt's amazing, but like Sarah Michelle Gellar would have
Yeah.
killed in
I
that
don't
role.
think I would
Stuff
have
like that.
traded Emily Blunt out though for it because I think she was just so
Yeah,
good, and
she's
the fact that
amazing.
her and John Krasinski were married just like
Yeah,
added a whole nother level to it. But
yeah,
Sarah could, I can like fit her into almost anything.
yeah, definitely. But she was underappreciated. I'm like looking at her as if she's here.
She feels like she's there right now.
Yeah, she's here with us now. But, but yeah, like even even as Buffy, the most iconic role that she's probably ever played, like to not even win like a significant award for that role, to not
Can
even
we
win an
talk
Emmy.
for a second about
Let's
the
go,
lack of awards for Sarah Michelle Gellar in Buffy the
let's go.
Vampire Slayer? It's the hate on supernatural shows and like the horror genre, and because I mean, again, Toni Collette in Hereditary, amazing performance. Not to even get an Oscar nomination was
Yeah,
a crime,
just
and
snub.
it just I just don't give much credit to the Academy Awards anymore. But like
I
Sarah,
agree.
she should have at least been nominated for a couple Emmys. Just you think episode by episode, the body is
Yeah.
there is no greater performance of grief
Mhm.
on television than Sarah Michelle Gellar in the body.
Absolutely. I think what's annoying is about like as you say like the Academy Awards and everything like that is that because it's such a focus on
Yeah,
genre and they just completely all right, well it's that genre, let's just leave it. The performance in that genre, like take the genre out of it, just watch that
yeah,
performance in the body. Like when she says mommy, when she runs backwards and
crazy.
forwards,
Yeah,
when she vomits, the way she looks at Joyce, like everything, every scene in that episode she deserves an award for because
yeah,
she kills. When she talks to Dawn at school, like everything is so damn well done. But people just, as you said, it's all a focus on genre and they forget
yeah.
about the performance in that. And it's like, oh, it's just a snub. Drives me nuts.
Yeah, give Sarah her dues, man. We got to come up with some. Me and Ian talk about what she needs to do, like just about every Slayer or every whatever episode we do together. So
Yeah,
we're on that train already.
good.
Yeah. So we'll kind of go into the closing here. You wake up and you're transported back in time to the first moment you described. So you described kind of Christmases, right?
Mm,
You can do anything you want before you come back to 2021. You can talk to your younger self. You can change something. You can just watch. You can do anything. What do you do?
it's really, really tough. Really tough. There's like an obvious answer in that I would say to like younger Adam, like, look, you're probably feeling this way right now. You're probably not understanding your feelings, but that's okay. But don't be afraid of it. Go with it. And, if you want to kind of come out earlier, then do it because you'll
Yeah,
benefit from it. It'll be tough at first, but you'll reap the rewards. And that's kind of like, I know that's an obvious answer. It's a lot of people's answer,
that's
but it's
okay.
true. It's like,
Well,
it's
I think
true.
the more obvious answer is people would say, I wouldn't change anything. Everything worked out the way it would. I think that's such a
Ah,
bullshit, too. I hate when people say that
yeah,
because I'm like, I have a list of things I'd go back and change.
yeah, yeah,
But, like, I
absolutely.
think that's a really good one because had you done, like, that's with all of us, right? Had we come out earlier, had we, like, all of the kind of dramatic moments that come out after that, like your dad kind of not accepting, like, it speeds up, right? And then you get
Yeah,
more time with your dad kind of accepting you rather
yeah,
than, that
yeah,
happening a little bit later. So I think that's a really good one, actually.
yeah.
Anything else, or is that just about it?
Probably that there'll be other things that'll come to me, but yeah, I just think that one, in terms of everything we've talked about, it's probably the most impactful. And as well,
Okay.
just to enjoy that, as you said, for more, and just enjoy that time and not kind of like just close that away for so long. But yeah,
Yeah,
probably that one. What about you?
absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, this is not about me. I think I would have committed to writing in my teenage
Mm,
years, and
mm,
I would have written something in my teenage
yeah,
years and put out a book in my teenage years. I think I would have set myself up. But then, kind of going back into what I said about like it being bullshit that if you change, it is true. Like if you change something back then, if I would have come into like a whole ass writing career and like gotten money or anything, whatever I would have gotten out of that,
mm,
I would have squandered it because I wasn't, I've never been good with that sort of thing. And as I'm getting older, I'm getting better. But
yeah.
I think that for me, but I'm really happy that you let me come on and do this for you. You're a little bit of an enigma.
Okay.
I don't really, I can't always read you sometimes because you are so calm, cool, and collected. So I'm glad we got to come on and like delve a little bit deeper into your sort of backstory. And I got a lot of cool stories out of it. So thank
Yeah,
you
no,
for letting me do this with you.
absolutely, Zach. No, obviously, thank you so much for agreeing to do it. I remember at the end of your episode when we kind of said, like, I want to come back and interview you. And I was like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds like an amazing. And here, is it going to happen? Here we are. It's
Doing
happened.
it.
So, yeah, we're
Doing it.
doing it. But no,
Yeah.
honestly, really appreciate it, man. It's like, it feels really weird. It's almost like I want to like jump in there and just go back to like what I do on the podcast. But it's nice. It's good to jump in, as you say, get to know
Yeah.
people. And it's a good way to round off season one of the podcast. So thank you for doing it, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. How do you end these things? Because I wrote everything except for an ending.
So just basically where we can find everything. So yeah,
Okay.
so you can find the podcast wherever you download podcasts. So basically type in Into You Podcast. You will find it there on all streaming platforms. I mentioned last week on that podcast is still going as well. That is available on all streaming platforms. If you want to find me, just type in Straughan87 on Twitter and on Instagram. You'll see my face. Zach, where can they find you and everything you do?
You can find me Instagram, Adventures of Zach and B, on Twitter, Adventures Z and B, YouTube.com/AZB bonus features. We'll do that. I'm putting a lot of content out on AZB bonus features, so trying to build that one up. But yeah, thank you again for doing this with me. Thank you for coming on to my podcast, the Into You podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute blast. We'll have to do it again
We
sometime.
need to do some content. We need to cover like some media. I'd like to do
Yeah,
that next. So we'll do that.
100%. I'm well up for it, man.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. And any final thought? Any final word?
No, just yeah. Take care, everyone, and Zach, I'll see you very soon.
Very soon, Monday or Tuesday. Alrighty. Bye, guys.